Hi there, it's Marcus here, and the year is 2022. I am here just to introduce you to a few of my key thoughts and goals for History 320. It's a course I dearly love, but I've been as crooked as anything, so you can still hear it in my throat. I just came back from Melbourne on Friday, and I had Omicron there, plus something else that got me into hospital and everything. So it's been a pretty tough couple of weeks, including the fact that my poor dear old dad died. So yeah, I'm looking at a death mask here. This death mask was dug up over a century ago now by Heinrich Schliemann in Greece, mainland Greece. It's from the Mycenae period, 1300 or to 1500 BCE. Mycenaean sort of civilization came to a reasonably sudden and mysterious end around 1200 BCE. At the time, Schliemann, who was a great follower of Homer, who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, the poems of Troy and so on, he felt that he had discovered in this mask, this death mask, the face of Agamemnon, one of the great kings of the ancient Mycenae and the leader of the Greek forces who went to Troy to beat the shit out of the Trojans. Sorry. So you look at that, I get excited and I start coughing and spluttering. But yeah, I just want to say, first of all, I put up, because I knew something had to be up for you guys, my introduction to last year's course, which hasn't changed that much in terms of its conceptual structure, but it has changed in terms of its assessment. So ignore anything I might say in that short snap about assessment, because I don't want you to start panicking or thinking it's not written in the course outline or whatever else that might be going through your mind at the moment. Yeah, let's move on, because there's literally only a few slides here that I want to talk about. First of all, here's a list of the course topics, which you will find in the course outline. I have, over the last few years, thought a lot about History 300, and I've reduced the course topics from 12 to 10, so that the last few weeks of the course can be dedicated quite simply to helping you craft your final assessment item and deal with any of the nitty-gritties that have arisen as a result. I really want to talk about the first assessment item, though, which is this one. First of all, because I've been as crooked as a dog, and I've decided that we should engage with the first 3 weeks readings, but that you should not worry about submitting until the end of week 4. Okay, so I'm giving you / me, because sorry, splatter again, an extra week in terms of submission for this, and yeah, I will attend to the need for a rubric and so on, and a submission place ASAP, hopefully by the end of the week. But really, it's just a blog post that you're going to need to write. And just so that you're not feeling totally, well, what the F is a blog post? I'm going to jump across to the ancient foods blog post here, which I went and found. There are plenty of really good historical blogs. Many of them, actually, like this one, draw upon, basically straight out off newspaper articles that are then just dropped straight in. I was noticing that as I was reading this one about the Chinese artifacts. We can talk more about what a blog post will look like. Essentially, what I want to do is I want to hear your voice, and I want to see how you're traveling in terms of thinking about, can history be objective? What is objectivity anyway? Objective is something that the sciences aspire to. I've just had COVID, so scientists have been researching COVID since it first appeared at the end of 2019 in China. Can history be objective? Is something that I want to hear your voice, what you're thinking about, okay? I want to see how you can demonstrate your capacity to reference your ideas when necessary, but at the same time, you can choose your voice, how you wish to sound, how you wish to convey your key ideas and your key thoughts based upon the 3 first readings. Okay. Yeah, and you can obviously throw in week 0 as well, which is that wonderful reading from Tom Griffith. I just now want to have a look at a short piece of writing from one of my all-time heroes in the historical world, waving this little book around here. I've got the book as a PDF, but I'm not sure how to make it available to you guys without getting sent to prison. Because of course it breaks, having a PDF of a book breaks copyright. Though this book may not be under copyright anymore, given that it came out in 1953. Mark Bloch is the author of this piece of work, and Mark Bloch is one of the great medieval historians of the 20th century. He was so good that the Nazis shot him after torturing him, not to get the secrets to some medieval code, but because he had the cheek to actually disagree with them. Mark Bloch died at the age of 60. He wrote this little book when he was about 58. It was, I think, first appeared in 1942 as a series of lectures. But, you know, I was snuffling around, not feeling very good last night when, you know, what does one do when one feels rubbish? Of course, one turns to history, doesn't one? And goes into, oh, look at this book. I went and got this book. And then, of course, you just put it on the bookshelf over here and it sort of falls into obscurity again. But, you know, it's just filled with incredibly beautifully written and well thought out insights. And, you know, he could be writing very much for an audience today. He says, look, the past is by definition a datum. That means something that consists of a core nugget of factuality. You can't deny that Lieutenant James Cook did bump into Australia when he was sailing around in 1769, just like he bumped into in New Zealand and so on. That there is something there that is realist, in other words. When nothing, he goes on, in the future will change. So that thing about the datum set is that nothing about the past can change. You know, President Trump was elected. There was a 6th of January. Australia has certain elements like Ned Kelly. There was a guy called Ned Kelly. We can argue till the day, till the cows come home, that's the phrase, about the kind of guy he was and what his own agenda was. But we can't deny the fact that there was a man called Ned Kelly who actually lived, okay, breathed, and so on. And he goes on, but the knowledge of the past is something progressive. In other words, it's cumulative. It's something that we add to with each generation. Your generation will add to the knowledge that I have added to my generation's knowledge, for instance, and so on. And that's true for anybody who is researching history or thinking really about the human project more broadly, if you don't want to call it history. I tend to shy away from the term to some extent, even though, of course, I've been teaching at the USC since 2404. Anyone who doubts this need only recall, he goes on, how much it has improved under our very eyes in little more than a century. Vast areas of mankind have emerged from the shadows, he goes on. Egypt and Chaldea have shaken off their shroud. The lost cities of Central Asia, like Angkor Wat or whatever, have disclosed their now unspoken languages and now extinct religions. A civilization all unsuspected, but has lately risen from its grave upon the banks of the Indus Valley civilization, Mohenjo-Daro, and so on. And so we go on. Also, he goes on, pointing out that really what's happening is that no longer do historians just go and read books, but they engage in a wide range of collaborations with other scientists, archaeologists, paleontologists, agronomists, not in Bloch's day, but in our day, people researching ancient DNA, aDNA, so that we can see what skin color somebody 40,000 years ago had, what eye color, what hair color, what we can look at their teeth and take samples out of their teeth and analyze them chemically for isotopes and so on that will tell us what their diet was at a certain period of time, how much they traveled, like the Ötzi man. They found the frozen remains of that guy covered in some interesting tattoos who'd been murdered crossing the Swiss Alps from Italy into Switzerland proper, more than 5,000 years ago. We can tell so much using a wide range of scientific instruments and so on. But, and it goes back to that very opening line, which is hidden there underneath the green and the red, it says the past is by definition a datum which nothing in the future will change. But the knowledge of the past is something progressive. Okay, I want to keep that in mind, because partly what that suggests is that there is a core aspect of objectivity, but that is surrounded by interpretation always. Now, I jump to the next slide simply to finish off what he has to say over on the top of the next page. He says, all that this is certain, in other words, that, history is progressive and that our understanding of the past keeps modulating, you could say. But he goes on to say this, all this is certain, all of it offers us the most extensive hopes, but they are not unlimited hopes. This sense of virtually unlimited progress granted to a science like chemistry, okay, which is capable of creating even its own subject matter, is refused to us. Why? Because we're working in the humanities. We can't have the exact sort of science that a chemist might have in his example there. Explorers of the past are never quite free. The past is their tyrant. Now, one of the readings we used to have for this course, it's no longer a core reading, but you'll find it in the extended readings, is from G.R. Elton. And Elton talks about the fact that the historian is a prisoner, that's his term, for two aspects of the past. Once we've chosen to study, I don't know, the Norman Conquest, the Australian first century of Australian history, whatever it is, we are bound by the rules of history. Now, when we start talking about objectivity, we have to start thinking about the rules of history. What are they? We can't just make things up. It's not fantasy, it's not fiction, it's something else. There is something there called the historical method. What is it? Well, that's up for us in the next few weeks to have a look at. But if you want to start somewhere, the reading by Evans is a great place to start when he looks at history on trial and the distortions, you'd have to call them, to historical memory introduced to the Nazi Holocaust narrative. And so on. Yeah, so that's a good place to start looking at, well, what is it that Evans needs to do in order to assess the work of David Irving. Here's our blog example. You'll notice that it pops up with a little, let's see if it's going to do it for us now. I'm going to come off and come over here. It's an active blog, so you just need to click on it. It will take you to ancientfoodswordpress.com. I would invite you to go and find your own blog to work out what kind of blogs are most satisfying to you. I chose this one because I'm interested in food history. And, I have used this image of a woman, or perhaps it's a man, but I'm pretty sure it's a woman, making bread from ancient Egypt, okay? And I want to end by pointing out to you that I should never have questions. I would rather have questions, says Professor Feynman. He's that very famous physicist. He says, I like questions that can't be answered, but answers that can't be questioned are a no-no. And I think that's the case for us in this course. That really, this is called questioning history. Why? Because too often history is presented as if it was about the past in an unquestioning sort of way, that yes, this happened here and this happened there. The history wars, the cultural wars that we've experienced in our own country of Australia, but are alive and well across the planet, are a very important reminder that history is something that you and I together, we create the memory that informs our education systems, our politics, our social processes, and our quest for meaning. So that's really what I wanted to say. So first of all, have a listen to what I've had to say in the other lecturette type thing, whatever we want to call it, thought bubble. Ignore anything I say in the other thing about assessments. We will talk more about assessment. We're going to meet up on Friday, I think it is, at 10 a.m. for those of you who can be there to talk assessment and to have partake in a 2-hour online seminar. Hopefully I will be somewhat better by then. If not, of course, we'll come up with some other solution to that problem. And get interested in thinking already about, hey, you know, I've spent the last 3 years at USC studying history, but I haven't been able to have a look at X, because this is your opportunity to have a look at some pet interest of your own. You heard me say that I'm particularly interested in food history, for instance. I find it very interesting looking at the history of ferments and fermented food like cheeses, kimchi's, sauerkrauts, sourdough breads, and so on. And of course, by way of closing, the very first thing that I ever got drunk on when I was a 12-year-old was my own mead. It was a Viking mead that I made, because yes, some, you know, these interests that we have, they're not just suddenly something that's popped up out of nowhere. They often have a strong history in our own biographies. I'm really looking forward to meeting up with all of you. I apologize for being a little bit behind the 8 ball, because COVID has really knocked me around. But, you know, we will get this show on the road, and I look forward to talking to you all soon. Thank you very much. Oops, I've got to work out now how to close this. Stop share. And there we go. Bye.